Broadcasting the information the mainstream media won't touch. This is The Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.
Now, our next guest was on the programme a few months ago. We threw the lines open to anybody who wanted to come on and talk to us who was affected by forced adoption. And our next guest came on. And in the short time that she had, her story was absolutely shocking. And I followed it and followed her on Facebook, and everything she told us was absolutely true in the short time that she had on. Her ex-husband, she hasn't seen her 3 children in over 7 years. I'm not going to again pretend that I know anything about that or how that must feel for any parent. I have no idea. Her ex-husband, the children's father, was charged with sexually abusing a daughter from his first marriage. Nothing to do with his children with Andreea, our next guest. They separated, she moved away. Sexual abuse charges were eventually brought against him. Again, to repeat, there was never any suggestion that he'd abused any of Andrea's children, and she certainly never put any of her children in any danger or in any harm. Yet, she would go on to lose them for risk of emotional harm. It's an incredible story. Let's welcome back to the programme Andreea Sutton Bradeanu. Andreea, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hi, Richie Allen. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm well, and I'm encouraged to see that people like you take up on such causes. So I just want to say thank you once again for all that you do for people like us.
Well, I actually don't do anything, Andreea. I'm not being modest. We were very lucky a couple of years ago. We were put in touch with Emma Ibbitson, and Emma came on. She was having trouble with the film Traffic. Amazon were taking it down, and we were keen to know what was going on. And until that point, I had no idea that this was affecting thousands and thousands and thousands of women mostly, and men in this country. I had no idea. And then we met Ian Josephs, and we met other people, and we did a phone-in that you took part in, and it was an eye-opener for me. I had no idea what was going on. Do you want to briefly... And when I say briefly, I'm not putting you under any pressure. You can take as long as you want, but give our listeners the brief background to what happened to you and why you ended up losing your 3 children.
Yeah, basically, I just need to clarify first. I think maybe first time I've been on your show, it must have been a misunderstanding. The father did not get to the point of getting charged with sexual abuse. It was investigated, but it was dropped, because they said there was not enough evidence, but it was credible. So, but then that was the CPS Crown prosecution in Manchester. And then family court in Liverpool said, yes, he is guilty, he has done that, but no actual charges were brought against him. So that's what I wanted to summarise first.
Well, thanks so much for clearing that up. Yeah, I remember it now. You're right. That's what you told me at the time, that the family court in Liverpool said that whether or not there was a criminal charge, they said that they felt that he had done it. I remember you said that, but he never actually went through a criminal court proceeding.
No,
he didn't do that. So start at that point and start at, because you'd separated from him. I know that he brought a woman into your lives to help with the children, a kind of an au pair, a nanny, if I remember. And he basically was doing that for his own selfish reasons because he wanted to be with her. And your relationship with him broke down, and then you moved away. It was at that point that these allegations were made against him, right?
Yeah, it was basically just as he was having this adulterous relationship with this young girl that we brought to help with the children. When I gave birth to our second child, which was a girl, and his older daughter from the first marriage decided about approximately 30 years to bring up this accusation against the dad that he supposed to have sexually abused her between the age of 7 and 13 years old. Now, the reason she gave for this disclosure was she did not want our daughter, which we've just had, to go through what she went through. I don't know if her reasons were genuine, but that about the disclosure, but that's what she said was her purpose for disclosing. And then he married this girl he was having a relationship with, and resulted a baby from there. And I was a single mom. I moved from the Council of Lancashire into Salford, which is under Merseyside. And then social services from Sefton decided to open a finding of fact, saying that social services in Lancashire have never made a finding of fact to a family court about this sexual accusation. So it was all about the dad.
Can I just stop you there, because this is kind of incredible. You've separated from him. You've gotten custody of the 3 children. You've moved to Southport. You're young, but you're going to start your life again with your children. And then you hear about this allegation. And Merseyside, which is, as you said, the authorities there are completely different to the Lancashire authorities. They say, oh, we want to open up an inquiry, a fact-finding inquiry about this, even though no accusations had ever been made about you. No accusations had ever been made that any of your children had ever been harmed by their dad or anybody else. So this is this. So how do you feel when you hear this? I mean, at this stage, did you not understand it? Were you nervous, or did you not know what was happening?
The thing is, when the social services in Lancashire investigated it, and the CPS in Manchester, they said to us, the social services said to us, yes, we're satisfied. We've done all our investigation, and the dad of the children can move back home, wishing us best of luck for the future. So we just thought that everything was dealt with, because you think social services, they investigated it, CPS investigated and decided to drop the case because they say not enough evidence. And then a few years later, to have that reopened, I feel disgusted, because Sefton Social Services said there was no finding of fact hearing done, but the actual thing, it was investigated by the CPS in Manchester. It was investigated by social services in Lancashire, and I feel absolutely revolted that they've decided to reopen this case again. And I believe they've done this intentionally, Richie, because they wanted to take my children as an excuse, because I was alone, a young mum, just myself and the children. So I believe they found the perfect excuse to actually prey on myself and my children.
When did you realise that it was becoming very serious, Andreea? When did you realise, my God, this is deadly serious? I could be in serious trouble here. When did that happen?
I didn't kind of know. I mean, when they first got involved, they said they're going to hold a child protection meeting and ask the children's dad to stay away from the children. So then they had this child protection meeting. I was kind of thinking there's a risk, because the children's dad did say there's a risk that they may be taken. So I've spoken to my children and I said, look, if you have to leave home, it'll be only for a little holiday. Basically, so I tried the best that I could to prepare my children for the worst. But it didn't really go through my head that they will actually be removed in this way, to be honest. I really didn't think. To be honest, if I thought and if I knew this would come, I would have left England and gone to Romania with my children. Yeah, exactly. But what they've done it in such a sneaky, sly way. They've applied to court, obviously, behind my back, and when I didn't expect it.
And I don't want to upset you, and I know you're hardened to what's happened, because I've seen some of your videos on Facebook, and I've seen them sometimes when you're doing them live, and I'm amazed by your resilience and your resolve to never give up after so many years. I think it's extraordinary. And I want to talk about the measures that you went to when they first were taken, the measures that you went to, dressing up and disguising yourself to go and see them. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Tell us about how they came to be taken away. This was around the Lancashire investigation into your ex-husband's conduct in his first marriage. That's how they came to be taken away, right? Explain that.
Yes, that's correct. Well, that was in 2009, November 2009, and we attended Liverpool Family Court, and we've seen Judge Dodds. He was the judge who has conducted this finding of fact. In fact, he was investigated himself for serious misconduct, which can be found all over the media, the internet, for example. And it was all about the children's dad, this finding of fact, whether he did abuse his daughter from first marriage or not. And then with no warning, the social services turned around and obviously had discussed among themselves with the judge. And on a day in November 2009, they said there and then, we're going to take your children. In fact, the social services did not want to take my children, but it was the children's guardian. She was heard from the corridor, putting pressure on the social worker to take my children, basically. So they said, it's temporary. The only difference is you still have parental responsibility, but will have parental responsibility as well. So yeah, my children were still with me at that point. And the judge just said to me, I'm not taking your children because you're a bad mom or you don't love them, but you're in a process of moving house, which I was. And you're here at the finding of fact for the dad every day, all day. I think it went on for about 2 or 3 weeks. So he said, you don't have the full time to give to your children and attention that they need. So this leaves one indication clear that after the finding of fact, my children were to be returned back home, basically. When the finding of fact was finished, my children never returned home. I moved to a 3-bedroom house, as I said last time. I've made it really beautiful, my children's bedrooms, everything basically new for them, but my beds were staying empty and never came back.
So in the finding of fact procedure, they start saying to you, patronisingly and condescendingly, you're here every day to observe these proceedings, and it's difficult for you to look after the 3 children, and you're in the process of moving house. We're going to help you for a couple of weeks. We're going to take your children and look after them until all of this is over, and then you'll get them back. Now, because of what we've learned on the programme over the last couple of years, some of our listeners, they might say, oh, Andreea was very naive there. But that's wrong. You weren't naive. We were all brought up to trust these people. So I can understand why you're like, I mean, I'm sure you were a bit, surprised by it, but at the same time, I can understand why you would trust them. And I've read the transcript. This is what they did. They said, you've done nothing wrong ever. Nothing has happened to the children. You've done nothing wrong with it. The kids are beautiful. Exactly. They're being looked after. But we're going to take them for a couple of weeks and we're going to bring them back. And then you get the 3-bedroom house. You get it looking lovely. And you say, right, my children, send them back to me now, please.
Exactly. I mean, all this can be all stated with the reason of removal. It's in the court order, in the judgment that Judge does, and also the transcripts and everything else can be taken from the court as evidence. But in his judgment, this judge says primarily the reason for removing my children was, I can't recollect the exact word, but it was extreme stress that these proceedings are putting on the children.
So why wouldn't they be better off going home with their mother then? So it's stressful.
Exactly.
It's stressful because they're hearing things about their dad, or they might be asked some difficult questions. Of course it's stressful, so they go home at the end of the day and they read a book or they play with their mother.
Exactly. So basically
Jesus
the primary
Christ.
reason which states in the judgment for removal of my children is this court proceedings, this finding of fact is extremely stressful for my children.
So you say, I'm ready now, thank you for helping out, got the lovely house, everything is smashing, everything is lovely, I'll have the children. What did they say? Because they didn't return the children. What was their reason for not returning the children?
Basically, they said to me, and to the court, they do not believe, and it is in their statement, and he said it is the opinion, so note opinion, not facts. It is the opinion of the local authority that Andreea cannot keep the children safe and protect them and look after their well-being and behaviour if they shall return home. Basically, this where there is. We base now on opinions, not on facts longer.
Can I just ask, Andreea, were they saying we believe that Andreea will let them go and see their dad? Is that what they were saying?
Basically said it is their opinion that I cannot protect my children from their dad, that who knows, exactly, that the dad of the children, there's too great a risk that he will get to the children from me, because they said I was naive and I was vulnerable. And if I was in any way, shape or form vulnerable, was because they left me vulnerable and alone after they took my children away instead of giving me the help.
This is truly and utterly evil. And I want our listeners to understand here, whether Andrea's former husband is or isn't a child abuser, I don't know the answer to that. But how can we live in a world where a state can say, oh, we think he might be a child abuser, we can't prove it, because if we could, we would go to court and we would prosecute him. But in the meantime, we don't believe that you're going to prevent him from seeing them, so we're going to take your children. I mean, this is absolutely sickening. If you believe the guy's a paedophile, put him on trial, get a conviction and put him away.
Exactly. That's what I say. Why is he walking free now, Richie?
Yeah.
And I'm saying this in public. I'm asking the public for their attention. Where is the justice? If one of the judges said, Judge has said, he's the worst kind of the worst. So if he's the worst kind of the worst, why is he still walking free today, the street? If he's such a grave danger to children, as they say, why is he still walking free? Why was I not given the help? Okay, moving me to the other end of England, I do not care. Move me to another country, I do not care. But don't punish me and don't take my children away because accusations and past of their dad is totally wrong, is totally immoral, and is totally evil.
It's absolutely disgusting. And when they didn't come home, who did you turn to? Did you try and get legal help, Andreea? How did you go about it?
Basically, I had legal aid solicitors all the years, but they weren't fighting my corner. Either they were intimidated, or they were knowing each other. They were discussing with the social services barrister together behind my back. And this is really not giving us the fair trial. Or if when I paid privately, I paid a good barrister and good solicitor privately, but the judge did not let my barrister speak. She kept interrupting my barrister, so my case was completely lost anyway.
And were you given access to see? I mean, were you allowed to go to see them, even with supervised visits?
Yes. At first, when they took my children away, I saw them twice a week. And then after the finding of fact was done and they took my children away, then they minimized, I think to once a week. And then they applied. What happened was they said to me at the finding of fact for their dad, you need to stay away from the children's dad, Andreea. If you don't, look, we put these restrictions in place, which they have done, injunctions. If you don't, these are the consequences. One of them, you can go to jail. One of them was, we'll take the children in long term, right? Okay, so basically I had no help at all, Richie, right? So how can people called so expert and professionals expect me, a young mom who was with a man 32 years older than me from a very young age, 14, 15, yeah, to completely break away from him instantly at the click of a finger with no professional help? It's impossible. They just expected me to do it all alone, right? So the children's dad kept obviously contacting me, and he knew I was vulnerable. They left me vulnerable with no children, no help, nothing whatsoever. So he kept stalking me. He kept harassing. For sometimes I did not. Obviously, I hid that from the social services, but not because, as they say, intentionally deceitful. They said in reports I was. It wasn't intentionally deceitful. It was because my children's dad said, oh, if you tell them, you open up a can of worms, right, and you're not going to see your children. So, yeah, it was the fear of not seeing my children. And I started the special counselling. And then I had a few sessions, and it started to benefit me.
Why did they want you to do special counselling?
Because they wanted me to break away from the father. Yeah. So the court, the judge has said this. Here's this. I'm very worried, she said, these exact words. Here's a very young mother. She's alone and she's got 3 children. 2 of them have behavioral difficulties. So she ordered the local authority of Sefton to pay for counseling sessions that I should break away from the children's dad. And that was after 2 years of my children being in care. So that's quite a long time. They've started to give me that help. I think that's pathetic, really. They should have done that in the first place.
What they should have done was, if they believe, if any authority figure, anybody working in law or working in the police, if they believe that somebody has committed a crime, they should either gather enough evidence to prosecute that person, or accept there isn't enough evidence and forget about it. That's unfortunately, and some people won't like that. They'll say, oh, Richie, there's a lot of paedophiles walking around. Yes, they are. But those paedophiles are being protected by the very same people who took your children, right? Yeah. We know this. So this absolutely staggers me. And you get to see them twice a week. How difficult is that, to see them and then have to go home afterwards?
Yeah, but then when they've... so what happened, before I get to that, because it's important, this... after I had the few sessions with my counsellor, I started to benefit. So I then I felt strong enough to tell the social services, look, the children's dad is not leaving me alone. I broke down. I crumbled down emotionally before them in a meeting. And I told them, with the hope and intention that they would help me, that to move away or to get rid of him. Anyway, anything, right? And I just wanted help to get away from him. So what they've done, they used my disclosure against me to court and applied to put my children in long-term foster care, because they said I was intentionally deceitful by not selling them in the first place, basically. So then they reduced my contact to once per month. And then they reduced my contact 6 times per year to see my son, because he was older. Yeah, he was older. And 4 times I was seeing my girls, basically. And when I paid a private solicitor, I went to apply for contact once a month. After 5 years, basically. And they said they refused. They basically refused, and so did the judge refused. And they said they can't give me once per month because that will disrupt the children's placement. And they also need to create an attachment, a bond with the foster carers. So the only thing they've given me was 2 extra contacts per year with my girls. So that meant I saw all my 3 children together, all of them at the same time, 6 times per year, basically, which is disgusting.
Am I to understand that something you told a counsellor in a therapy situation was used against you, ultimately, to prevent you from seeing the children more often?
Yes, exactly, because I told the social services, they were actually, my counsellor was not the first one I disclosed to.
Right.
But I went to the social services and my counsellor, and the social services criticised me even for not telling my counsellor first. And my counsellor has written in a report, no, I have done correct, that I have first told them. But basically, me trying to cry out for help, look, this is what is happening, I need help, he's not leaving me alone, they used it against me, basically. So I see them, why my counsellor has written to them and said, they also stopped my counselling sessions, by the way. And my counsellor has written to them and said, it will be detrimental for you to stop Andrea's counselling at this time because she has begun to make progress. She should be encouraged for the little even for the progress that she has done. And if you do stop the counselling, and if you do stop and all that, she will see you as the enemies, and she will see herself stabbed in the back. And do you know what, Richie? Do you know what, people? This is how exactly I see them.
When was the last time you saw the children?
December 2014.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
They say that you're not capable of keeping this guy away. A guy whom, whatever he did or didn't do, hasn't ever been prosecuted for anything. And they say that you can't keep him away because you're vulnerable, because you're a young mother. Therefore, we're going to take your children away from you. And we're going to get you into counselling because you can't keep a man away from you and from your children. Again, just to labour the point, a man who, under the law, hasn't done anything wrong because he hasn't been prosecuted or convicted of anything.
Exactly.
The whole thing is insane. And you believe that, you see, maybe I shouldn't speculate, but to me, this is the greatest, one of the most evil. This is a business. It's a multi-billion-pound a year business. It's a machine.
I've seen it,
isn't it? You know, it's a machine.
I know. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's made billionaires out of people. So
yeah.
So they're looking for reasons to steal children from parents.
Yes.
There's a young woman over there. She's not English. She's Romanian. She's young. There's a chance here. Her ex-husband's been accused of something. We could probably finagle, to use an old Irish word, we can probably move a few chess pieces around and take her children. And each child is worth, and I've not got the figures here in front of me. I normally do have them handy. But it's hundreds of thousands of pounds to the adoption agencies, to the foster carers. And you can't conclude anything else. This is it. This is the reason. You know, it would have been cheaper to say, Andrea, look, we don't want to be interfering now, but you're a young woman. You've left a relationship with a much older man. You've got the 3 kids there. We're going to help you out if you need it. Here's the phone number, Andrea. If you ever get into any trouble, if you've ever got any money worries or anything at all, give us a call and we'll give you a bit of advice. Wouldn't that have been lovely?
You know, exactly. You just got the words from my mouth, because this is what I was going to say. The amount of money which it costs to keep my children in foster care, right? They get between 500 to 700 pounds per week per a child.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, they could have put a quarter of that. Or I don't even want any of those money. You know, I just let my children home because I'm independent. I can provide. I am, you know, I'm strong. I'm mature. I can provide my children for everything. All the needs are provided. I've got a house in Romania, which has been empty for all these years. Okay, all the facilities, basically everything you need to provide and have your children. So I don't even need a penny from them, you know, but yet they give these thousands and thousands of pounds for my children to be kept away from my own taxes, which I pay, and I get stung at taxes, believe me. I pay loads of it, and your taxes, Richie, and your taxes, people, this is where it goes, into child trafficking. And I do not agree to it. I don't want to pay my taxes to a council, which this is where, if you look on your council tax bill, you will see that most of the money from the council tax goes to the local authority. What are they doing with this money? Well, I'm sorry, I do not want to pay for child trafficking. And this is where I stand. It's wrong.
December 2014. How old are they now?
My son is 15. He will be 16 in January, yet I don't know absolutely nothing about him for almost 2 years.
But he's going to come and look for you when he's 16, isn't he?
I don't know. Richie.
He is.
I don't know.
Of course he is. He is.
I don't know.
And I'll tell you something else. When he turns 18, do you know what he's going to do when he turns 18? And I'm going to be standing there reporting on it. He's going to sue the state for fucking hundreds of thousands of pounds for taking him away from his mother. You see, this is what's going to happen. These children are going to become adults, and many of them are going to come back, and they're going to get billions and billions of pounds in compensation. And you know who's going to pay for that? The taxpayers that you just talked about. I have no doubt in my mind that's what's going to happen.
Exactly. But, you know, I was saying, I don't know. My son told me to my face, Mom, I love you. Don't get this the wrong way, though. But I don't feel the attachment anymore between you and me. So how am I supposed to feel when my child comes and tells me that? And when he's developed so many special things, they've taken him, which he's never had when he was in my care, and they've moved him further away from me. He's cared because I've read his medical report. They take him to this psychiatric unit and they want to keep him in. And he said to me he refuses because he doesn't want to stay over. But he hated her, basically. He thinks if he doesn't go willingly, they will come and put him in one of these restraining shirts and taking him forcibly. So this is how my child feels. And while he's there to the psychiatric unit, he reacts because he's scared. He told me this. He's scared. And he attacks the staff. He bites them. He does all sorts of stuff. And what do these people do then? They write the report saying, he said this and he's done this. Oh, he's really got special needs and he's got this and he's got that. When in fact, my child doesn't have that. It's the fact he reacts out of fear of being there because he told me. So he was told if he has contact with me, his mom will go to jail. And my son told me, Mom, I don't want it to go to jail.
Was there...
He believed.
Yeah. was I right in suggesting that when he turns 16, if he chooses to do so, he can do whatever he wants, essentially, and he can come and find you?
No, because social services told my son is 18. He cannot come home till 18, and he believes that because
I thought the law was 16.
I thought the law, but they told me they changed it to 18, and they've written in reports no intention of coming home till 18. And
what I was saying about future litigation is not just a fantasy on my behalf. I know this is going to happen because it's happened in the Republic of Ireland with children who were sent to institutions and whom were taken away from their families, and hundreds of millions of pounds were given in compensation. These children are going to come of age, and they are going to be, God love them, full of hate and bitterness and anger against the state and against the authorities for taking them away from their mother. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah, they already are. They told me that. They've already reacted. My son threatened to stab one of the social worker in the head, to stab her, basically. And she quit. The social worker left because my son's made really serious threats to her person. And, to a contact supervisor. And for example, he's very protective. All my children are very protective of me. So when they saw this contact supervisor was speaking down on me and disrespectful, they all three ganged up on him and said, "You don't speak to my mum like that." And my son, the things he came up with, he called him a pig, he called him all sorts of stuff, and he said, "If you were in Romania, I would have killed you." That's what my son said. And he said, "One day I'm going to grow up and I'm going to effing kill you." I'm sorry for the language, but this is what my son said.
So
it's very sad.
You get updates then, so you can still get updates as to where they are in terms of what they're doing, the children. You can find out about that. You can't. Nothing.
No.
Nothing for 2 years.
My children are in foster care, yet we are treated as if they're adopted. No contact, no telephone contact, no face-to-face, no letter. Yeah, it was agreed I received from my children once a month cards. I've received nothing for in 2 years, only one card at Christmas last year. So when you think about it, it should be every month. Yeah, nothing. So basically, the social worker, he accused me of harassment this year because I have continued to write emails and letters to his work, and no reply to my messages. When I rang, excuses, it's not there, and etc. So I wasn't getting updated about my children with anything. Eventually, I got frustrated and I've written to his home address, and I've numbered all the questions which I've had about my children in writing, and I said I want answer in writing to all of these questions. He did not reply to that. What did he do? He went to the police and said I've harassed him, basically. So that's when the police came and arrested me for harassment. So when we went to court in September, this social worker kept his face down. He looked depressed. He didn't have the courage to look at me. And my lawyer, bless him, he's excellent, the most excellent lawyer I've ever had. And he really, really pressed hard on him. And eventually the social worker admitted, yes, there was no communication from our side, from the local authorities side, no letters, no updates to the mother at all for at least a year, right? So he admitted that. He wouldn't give a reason. He refused to cooperate and to answer my lawyer's questions. But there we have it. He admitted it. And then when I write to his home address, because constantly they refuse to tell me about my children, then they say it's harassment, basically.
Can I ask you this? Explain to our listeners, I think I know the answer, but why don't mothers like you take a civil case against the government, basically, local government, and even national government? Why is that? Is it because of the cost of it, the financial cost of it?
Yes, exactly. The money.
Because you've got to give a down payment of thousands of pounds to instruct a barrister, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And some is fear. Some people have fear. I was in fear for 5 years, and honestly, I was so scared of the social services because I know of the power they have. If I was always like, oh, if I don't work with them, or if I don't do as they say, or if I don't agree with what they say and what they do, or they can write this about me and they can stop my contact, and the judge, they make a report and the judge believes it, basically. It's really scared of them. But the last couple of years, I've broken through the wall of fear. I've manned up. I've got strength and courage, and I'm not afraid anymore, basically.
We just need, those of us concerned about this issue, we need to fund somebody like you. We need to find a couple of £100,000 to instruct a barrister, somebody like the chambers of Michael Mansfield or somebody like that, to take a very high-profile case against Merseyside Social Services or Lancashire Social Services and hit these people hard. That's what needs to happen, isn't it? A major case.
There's so much evidence. There's so much evidence against them. No doubt my case will be won if they were to be sued. No doubt. No doubt. But what I want to say is my son was with the foster care. He was an amazing man. So he looked after David really well. He, for example, when my son went there to stay with him, my son brought me the first bouquet of flowers with the contact. And it was so special, and I was really proud of the man who's taken David. But they moved him from that man because my son had too much freedom and he was coming to see us very regular. And the social worker has promised to my son they will put contact back between us and him, and it will be unsupervised. And then they went without warning and removed my son on reason saying that my son's behavior could not be coped with by the foster carer, and that the foster carer wanted him to go, which I can prove that's false as well without giving too many details in here in public for now, but all of that will come out at the right time. So they moved him to a children's home, which is even further away than from where he was. And he's alone. He's the only child at that children's home, so he receives a one-to-one. And then what they've done, the Sefton NBC, they've took my daughters from the foster carers who have falsely accused me that I harassed them, my girls in public, and they didn't feel comfortable with that. But so they taught my two girls, they lived together since they were born. Yeah, close. Yeah, they had quarrels and fights like sisters do. Okay, but for years and years to live together as sisters, and then they took one of them, moved her all the way in Norfolk County. They didn't inform me. This is how evil they are.
They separated the girls.
Exactly. They did not tell me of this move, even to this day. I found out alone because God has made that possible, okay? So I found that out alone. So just think about the damage done to my girls. growed up since they were born together.
Do you know,
And then,
Andreea, we're just about running out of time. When I say what I'm going to say now, I mean it. It's not one of those throwaway things. Because of people like you, I mean, I know you've gone and you've studied law, you've studied childcare.
I am studying
You're studying law at the moment.
I want to study it. I will try my best to finish it because I want to help other people who are going through what we're going through.
They're never going to win, Andreea, as long as there are people like you and some of the other women who've come on this programme. They'll never beat that. They'll never beat you. They've not broken you in 7 years. They've not stopped you. You keep going forward and you keep looking and looking and looking, you know.
I feel strong. I feel strong and I'm not afraid. I'm not fearful. And the more they try, the more determined I get. So this is what they don't realize. Stop trying to put me down. Stop trying to take my rights as a mother, because they make me even more determined and more strength is coming out of me. And it's making it worse for them actually than it's making it for me. But then, so they torn apart my girls. They've separated them what they love the most, their mom, their brother, their Romanian family, and now the sisters. So I'm still traumatized. I want to quickly say, so I'm going to talk a bit fast. I'm still traumatized that they've moved one of my daughter in County Norfolk, and I just picture this. Each one of you listen now to this show. Just think, you're my daughter. You're 12, you're 13 years old. You're taken from your 12, 11-year-old sister who you grew up with all your life. You're chuffed in the back of a car with all your belongings. You're going down, traveling to the south of England from northwest. One finger's a child goes in your head. Oh, what am I going to do now? I'm not seeing my sister and I'm not seeing my brother. How am I ever going to find my mom so far away? This has still traumatized me and I've not got over it. I really have not. And then I found out that they've moved my youngest daughter in County Norfolk as well. So they're both in the same county, but they're still separated. This is totally sick and evil.
We're out of time. I'm convinced that you'll be with your children, Andreea. I'm not saying that because it's easy to say, and I'm not saying it because I want to, make you feel better. Nothing I could say could make you feel better at all. I'm well aware of that. But I know for a fact that you'll be with your children again, whether you've got to wait a year or 2 years or 3 years. But it won't be so long. And what you're doing by never giving up and by making the videos that you do on your Facebook page and everything else is a wonderful example to other people who are going through it. But also, it's marvellously educational for people who do have children, because people have to realise this is what these people can do. They can come into your life for no reason and say, we're taking your children. And people need to understand it. And without people like you coming on shows like this and having the courage to do it, nobody would believe it's happening. Nobody would believe it.
No, I know I didn't till it happened to me. I didn't. If people want to find out more about my case, they can go on www.suttonchildren.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Andreea, and you can find out more about my case there. We'll tweet the links out. We're absolutely bang out of time, so I've got to say, thanks for coming back on the programme, Andreea. I thank you with all my heart. I really do, Richie.
Good luck with everything and stay in touch.
Thank you, and God bless everyone and all the best to all.
Andreea Bradeanu on the programme, live from Southport, and you heard her on the Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.